Martial arts have influenced everything from comics to movies and most definitely video games. I'm here with Matt Kohler from Red Fist Productions, where they bring a real martial arts focused sensibility to movies that's been missing for a long time. Check out his channel down in the description below. Today, we're going to be talking about the best martial arts based video games. Let's get into it.
So our first one today for me is Dynasty Warriors 4. I played this game on the PS2, and for me, I love just beating up several people at once, especially a couple hundred. At the bottom, you had a kill count of how many people you are devastating throughout the entire thing, and you can play with many different characters from that early 200, 300 AD time in China. This game is obviously based off of the book, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, although I will say very loosely with things like Lu Bu, which let's just be honest, Lu Bu is amazing, and if you ever want to be chased down by Lu Bu while riding a horse, don't be afraid by him.
Is that who I think it is? It's Lu Bu! Lu Bu's come to destroy us!
Back in the day, my brother and I were huge fans of Mortal Kombat. We played the first one like crazy on the Super Nintendo, even though it didn't have blood. And when Mortal Kombat 2 came out, that's all we played for like a year straight. Over the years, Mortal Kombat's had some horrible spin-offs. First, there was Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero on the PlayStation, which honestly at the time I didn't think was that bad. It's a side-scrolling game where you play Sub-Zero, but if you look back on it, it was just straight up terrible. And then they brought out Mortal Kombat Special Forces. This was one of the worst games of all time. So when they finally brought out Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, I was really skeptical. It was made by Midway Studios Los Angeles, who used to be Paradox. And if you don't know who they are, I don't blame you. They made a lot of bad games, like the unreleased PlayStation fighting game Thrill Kill, Backyard Wrestling, and a fighting game X-Men Mutant Academy. And despite all that, they really pulled together for this one. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is basically a co-op based brawler game. When we first got this, me and my brother had it on Xbox. We basically played it straight through. I think it took us like 2 days. We played it non-stop until we beat it. It definitely brings you back to that old school Mortal Kombat feel. So when you first start playing, it drops you down to familiar stages like Goro's Lair. And then you go to the pit. Remember the spikes? You can uppercut guys off the bridge and they smash down. It's awesome. And what's crazy is they even put in like Easter eggs from the game. Like on the pit level, you see Santa Claus fly across the sky. I really hope that they've remastered this someday. And they actually even talked about it last year. Ed Boon, the guy who made Mortal Kombat, said he wanted to remaster it. And I really hope they do. If you've never played it and you liked Mortal Kombat, but specifically classic Mortal Kombat games, you definitely owe it to yourself to check this out. You won't be sorry.
So Bushido Blade was a game that came out on the PlayStation, and which actually is kind of crazy because I've only played the demo ever, although you got to play a lot of the game. So Bushido Blade is a fighting game in which you are a samurai fighting other samurai, but it's not like any other fighting game before, because most fighting games you're just beating each other up until the health bar is over. But for Bushido Blade, the cool thing about this was if you got hit once, you're dead, like a samurai movie. And so the object was to try to counter your opponent for a fatal blow or a final blow. And for me, this kind of is the total package of a martial art game, taking something from samurai movies and putting them into video games, which is why Bushido Blade is on my list of favorite games.
How I describe Onimusha is basically Resident Evil with samurai, but the difference is where Resident Evil is more survival combat. You play as a samurai named Samanosuke, and you're going up against a reincarnated evil version of Nobunaga. It is really fun swordplay as well as magical attacks to go up against all these crazy enemies. And you get different weapons throughout the game that you can imbue with different elemental energies like a lightning sword or a flame sword. It's really cool. And it still has some of the puzzles and environmental based challenges that you know and love from Resident Evil. There's zombies, these giant monsters, ninjas, all sorts of crazy guys. The first 3 games in this series are awesome, and I definitely recommend checking them out. They actually just remastered the original one on PS4 and Xbox One, so if you never played it, you have no excuse now to check it out.
Sir! A human? How disappointing.
Fist of the North Star, Ken's Rage, is a game very similar to Dynasty Warriors 4. So if you love that game, you're going to love this. But this game, unlike the other, is based off a manga called Fist of the North Star, in which Ken is in a post-apocalyptic world. So, in the game, of course, what do? Well, you beat everyone up with your fists. And the absurdity of the violence is to, I don't know, I guess to the extreme, because in the game, you just kill whatever you want to kill. And on top of this, just like Dynasty Warriors 4, you can't have a great game without insanely bad acting, and on top of that, really bad dubbing. I'm talking to you, Amoeba.
I am Amoeba!
The next game on my list is Shenmue. Shenmue was made by Yu Suzuki from AM2 on the Sega Dreamcast in 1999. Now when this came out, it was one of, if not the first open world adventure game that I'd ever seen. This game actually started out as a Virtua Fighter RPG, and it definitely showed. In addition, it was also the most expensive game ever made at that time. Cool thing about Shenmue is it had a day and night cycle, and also each AI character had their own paths and things they do each day. So if you're trying to find Bob the baker, you go to his bakery shop at 3 o'clock. Well, guess what? 3 o'clock's when Bob goes for his walks in the park. Another thing that was crazy about this game is you can openly explore many of the houses in the game. You can go in and open every drawer in the house, and each drawer has something different. I remember when I first played through the game, it took me forever because I would go and open every single drawer just to see what's inside. And you can pick up the items, check them out, like add them to your inventory. It was crazy. So basically the plot is your character Ryo, his father gets killed, and you basically go on a quest of revenge through 1985 Japan to avenge your father. You have a huge assortment of moves that you learn throughout the game from different masters, so you always have something new to do during combat. The voice acting is so bad it's good, and for the majority of the game you're just walking around doing menial tasks. At one point you have to drive a forklift as a job to earn money to leave the island. But if you can get past that stuff, Shenmue has an amazing soundtrack, it's got a great story, awesome battles, and honestly, I don't think the gaming landscape would be where it is today without it.
So Nioh is a samurai game that is like a From Software Dark Souls, Demon Souls game where you run around from level to level trying to conquer the bosses, the demons in the game. And the challenge is pretty high, but the thing I enjoy about it is the variety in the weapons, the variety in the low to high stance. They really emphasize the martial art side of fighting in the game. And of course, I always go in a low stance because why? I like dodging. Yeah, it's pretty simple. I like dodging. I don't like getting hit.
The next game on my list is Jade Empire. Jade Empire came out in 2005 for the original Xbox. It was developed by BioWare. If you don't know who they are, they made a ton of RPGs, they made Baldur's Gate on the computer, and they brought out Knights of the Old Republic. If you never played Knights of the Old Republic, it's a fantastic RPG. It's one of the best Star Wars games ever made. Jade Empire was the follow-up to Knights of the Old Republic. It basically took everything that was awesome about that, but takes it and puts it into a unique Chinese mythology-based world. At the time, there wasn't anything like this, and honestly, we really haven't had anything since. So Jade Empire is fully real-time, essentially action gameplay. You can do dodge rolls. You have all different styles, like a quick attack. You can dodge out of the way, switch styles. Like there's one called the 1,000 Cuts, where you just do super fast attacks, lane-based like area of effect attacks. And you can even turn into a giant demon toad. When this game came out, a lot of people complained that it was short. I mean, it's only 15 hours, but honestly nowadays, for me, I wish more RPGs were 15 hours long. If you're just looking for a unique RPG, you don't have a lot of time and you really want to scratch that kung fu martial arts itch, and honestly, I can't think of any other martial arts based RPGs, so if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, definitely check it out. It's quick to play through, it's super fun. Awesome gameplay, cool graphics, great story. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
My favorite game, my favorite martial art inspired game is without a doubt Jet Li's rise to honor. So of course, you have the martial arts star Jet Li coming into motion cap to make you feel like you are playing Jet Li because, well, you are. And so you get to do all of his moves that you see in all of his movies. And the thing that I love about this is the action's really good. It's very unique. Instead of using buttons, it uses the right analog stick to do all the fighting, which is very innovative for the time and still kind of is. But the other thing that I truly love about this game was that I've never felt like a martial artist before or after. This is one of the few games that I think is very underrated for its time and probably doesn't get much talked about because it didn't do that well. But Jet Li Rise to Honor is amazing. If you can find a way to play it, it is on the PS2, I know. So, yeah, try to find it.
The last game on my list is Ninja Gaiden Black on the original Xbox. It was developed by Team Ninja. They made the fighting game series Dead or Alive. 2 years later, they brought out Ninja Gaiden Black, which is essentially the first one, just enhanced. At the time, this was the hardest game I had ever played. Nowadays, with games like Nioh or Dark Souls, it's not that crazy, but at the time, it was brutal. But the thing about Ninja Gaiden, even though it was crazy hard, it was never unfair. If you died, it was because you messed up, you didn't block, you didn't dodge. So if you die, the only person you have to blame is yourself. I remember it took me days to beat this one boss, Alma. She's this crazy girl and it's just ridiculously hard. And I'll be honest, to this day, I've never beaten the last level. If you like deep action games, then you're gonna love this. Each weapon has its own unique combos and moves, and there's certain things that are better at others. So you never get bored, but you also have to think strategically on what's the best weapon to use for any situation. I think the moral of the story here is fighting game developers make really fun combat. I wanted to say thanks again to Matt for joining me, and if you want to keep this martial arts inspired theme going, check out our video over here on Bruce Lee inspired characters. You should definitely check out his channel, it's down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, have a good one.